If you enjoy the content on this channel, please like and subscribe. Blackadder Goes Forth is the fourth series of the BBC sitcom Blackadder, written by Richard Curtis and Ben Elton, which aired from the 28th of September to the 2nd of November 1989 on BBC One. The series placed the recurring characters of Blackadder, Baldrick and George in a trench in the Flanders during World War I and followed their various doomed attempts to escape from the trenches to avoid death under the misguided command of General Melchett. The series references famous people of the time and criticises the British Army's leadership during the campaign, culminating in the ending of its final episode, in which the soldiers are ordered to carry out a lethal charge of the enemy lines. Despite initial concerns that the comedy might trivialise the war, the series was met with acclaim and won the British Academy Television Award for Best Comedy Series in 1989. In 2000, it was placed 16th by the industry professionals in a list of the 100 greatest British television programmes compiled by the British Film Institute. However, some historians and politicians have criticised it for presenting an inaccurate view of the war, reinforcing the myth of lions led by donkeys. Some interesting trivia notes. Tim McNairy's character was originally named Captain Cartwright. Stephen Fry then had the idea to change it to Darling, named after a boy at his school, and created a running gag which frequently was used throughout the season. McNairy also affected a nervous tick in his eye for the character of Captain Darling, and after 6-week rehearsal and shooting schedule was over, the tick had become second nature and it took him a further 2 months to get rid of it. During rehearsals, the script was exhaustively discussed and redrafted by the cast, with Richard Curtis having final say on the content. Stephen Fry, Hugh Laurie and Rowan Atkinson were comic writers and actors themselves, having worked together on the previous Blackadder series and were not afraid to question the script and make suggestions. However, this caused tensions to rise between the writers and the cast. In interviews, Ben Elton felt that it had allowed the cast to question every aspect of the script, while Tony Robertson claims the writers felt we were unilaterally altering the script for the worse. By the end, they felt we had run away with it. The ill feeling between the writers and actors, coupled with draining scripts and rehearsals, leading to everyone deciding not to make more Blackadder shows. Main writers Ben Elton and Richard Curtis would write the episode script separately, and then swap floppy disks containing their scripts with each other to edit jokes and dialogue. Curtis says they always wrote separately, because if we had to sit in a room together, we'd discuss everything but Blackadder. According to John Lloyd, the producer, the popularity of the series with the armed forces meant that at one point half of all regimental goats had the name Baldrick. Further evidence of the show's popularity can be seen from the records of the First Gulf War, during which British lines in Iraq were named after the characters from the series. As is well known, Tim McNairy declined the role of Lord Percy for the third season of Blackadder III, for fear of being typecast as an idiot. As a consequence, his part in the fourth season is much more shrewd and wicked than any of his other earlier versions. The writers researched World War I and thought it may be a very apt fitting for a comedy. All the build-up to the First World War was very funny, all the people coming from communities where they'd never be bumped into posh people, and all being so gun-ho and optimistic. The first 100 pages of any book about World War I are hilarious, then of course everybody dies. Rowan Atkinson further explained that the trenches in World War I were perfect. He would say, "We wanted a place and time that could reproduce the extent of claustrophobia and sordidness of the medieval England. The best way to do that was set it in the middle of a war." There was talk of producing a fifth Blackadder series set during the turbulent historical period, America in the 1960s. One idea for the series was that Baldrick would be revealed as the second gunman during the assassination of President Kennedy, accidentally of course. The decision to set Blackadder in the trenches of World War I did not come from Ben Elton, Richard Curtis or any cast or producers. The BBC received unsolicited script for a new Blackadder series set in France during World War I from a young first-time writer. The scripts themselves were rejected, but Elton and Curtis did like the idea of World War I setting and subsequently wrote Blackadder Goes Forth using this idea. The Blackadder theme and the series music were performed by the band The 3rd Battalion, the Royal Anglican Regiment. At the time they were a full-time infantry battalion, but now are a part-time volunteer TA battalion. General Melchett's mannerisms include a laugh or explanation that sounds like a bleating sheep. This is an inside reference for fans of Blackadder II, in which Lord Melchett was revealed to have an unnatural attraction to farm animals. Although subtly altered, the very same set for the episode of General Hospital was used for the prison infirmary scenes in the popular Ronnie Barker comedy series Porridge. The opening band plays the first line of the 18th century march of British Grenadiers, before segueing into the Blackadder theme. In contrast to the apparent ages of the characters, Stephen Fry and Rowan Atkinson are in fact only 2 years apart, with Atkinson actually being the elder of the two. The characters of Blackadder Goes Forth have in fact the same dynamics as the main characters from Blackadder II. Blackadder has to deal with a mad, unpredictable superior who could either kill him or give him what he wants, as with Queen Elizabeth in the second series. while constantly being thwarted by a slimy assistant to the superior who loathes Blackadder, Lord Melchett in the second series and Captain Darling in the fourth. Meanwhile, Blackadder gets help from his stupid sidekick Baldrick and an upper-class twit, Lord Percy, versus Lieutenant George. Rowan Atkinson was personally not fond of filming the final shot and the final goodbye, stating that running towards the camera and falling to the ground with the rest of the actors felt unconvincing. This led to a slow motion shot and fade to poppy fields during editing. According to Rowan Atkinson, the tragic series finale, Goodbye, was written to counter the criticism that World War I was inappropriate for a comedy setting. According to Rowan Atkinson, he started to experience his character's apprehension in the interim to the final episode. In the weeks leading up to the recording of that final episode, when we went over the top for the first time in my acting career, knowing that even though the rest of the episode was a usual standard funny sitcom self, this was a deep twist in my stomach. Throughout this week, thinking along with your character that you were doomed. It was most peculiar to feel that way, Atkinson would say. Ben Elton's uncle, historian Geoffrey Elton, initially voiced concerns to his nephew that the show might be considered disrespectful. However, after the bittersweet series finale, Geoffrey called Ben to say that he'd been wrong. The show has come under huge criticism by historians for presenting an overly simplified view of the war and enforcing the popular notion of World War I being lions led by donkeys. In other words, brave men led by buffoons to their death. One critic asked, is the series justified in using tragic situations as a springboard for comedy merely for entertainment value? However, some critics say the characterization and sense of danger prevented the sitcom from trivializing its subject matter. The prospect of its characters suddenly dying of a violent death provided a constant source of tension and gags, though when they were really killed off at the end in the final episode, the result was so unexpectedly moving that the program was later repeated as part of an otherwise wholly serious BBC Two Armistice Day program without anyone batting an eyelid. The series was originally to end with Blackadder, Baldrick, Darling and George, and all the troops being gunned down instantly by machine gun fire in the Big Push when they jumped out from the trench, and Captain Blackadder was revealed to have feigned his death and was the only survivor. Alongside the later incarnations of regular characters, Blackadder, Baldrick, George and Melchett, the series is noted for presenting descendant versions of the two fan-favourite one-off characters from Blackadder II, namely Bob played by Gabriel Glaister and Flashshot played by Rick Mayhall. The series also includes previous regulars Tim McNinery and Miranda Richardson in roles completely different from their prior characters. This version of the Blackadder character was considerably older than the actor playing him. Rowan Atkinson was 33 or 34 at the time when the series was filmed, whereas in continuity he rescues Field Marshal Haig in 1892. In the season, Blackadder is a fully fledged soldier, a full 25 years before the 1917 setting of the show. Another season of this famed sitcom offers a brilliant, darkly comedic exploration of the futility of war, all while maintaining the biting wit and character-driven humour that made the series so beloved. The show is often hailed as one of the greatest British sitcoms of all time, and even though season 4 isn't my favourite, it is still widely regarded as its finest. The series explores themes of survival, cowardice and absurdity in the face of war, and the underlying message of the senselessness of conflict. While Blackadder has always been a vehicle for satire and social commentary, this final season really does take a more poignant turn, blending sharp humour with moments of genuine emotion. Once again, Rowan Atkinson's portrayal of Captain Blackadder is absolutely masterful, showcasing a character who's less of a traditional hero and more of an anti-hero, with a blend of intelligence, sarcasm and desperation. Atkinson's chemistry here with the ensemble cast is at its peak. Hugh Laurie as Lieutenant George continues to play the lovable but dim-witted officer with perfect timing, and Tony Robinson's Baldrick, with his simplistic schemes and catchphrase "I have a cunning plan," provide some of the series' most memorable moments. The supporting characters are equally well cast, with Stephen Fry's General Melchett, a pompous, clueless military leader, becoming one of the most iconic characters of the series. Fry's performance is the perfect foil to Blackadder's dry wit. Other notable performances include Tim McNinery as the pompous and opportunistic Lieutenant Darling, who also serves as a rival to Blackadder. Not to mention a phenomenal performance here from Rick Mayhall once again playing Flashheart, and even Miranda Richardson playing a nurse. I must say, this is an incredibly well-written season. It manages to masterfully blend sharp humour, historical satire, with emotional depth. The characters here are wonderfully realised and the performances are absolutely impeccable. The series concludes on a note that is both devastating and brilliant, leaving an indelible mark on its audience. While each series of Blackadder is memorable in its own right, the fourth series definitely takes you on an emotional roller coaster that can be seen as both funny and tragic, and is an excellent commentary on war, class and society. It truly is a testament to the power of the wonderful acting and phenomenal writing that this series still remains a standout piece of work in British comedy history. Blackadder Goes Forth gets a 9.5 out of 10.